Kitchen. So today we're going to be doing homemade mac and cheese with chicken. So here we go, and stay tuned, hit the like, share, subscribe button, and see how we made this beautiful mess. Welcome to Poul's Kitchen. This is Chef Paul with Chef Stanley, who've been screaming to have a part of this. Like we said before, we're going to make some homemade mac and cheese, but we're going to do a little bit different. We're going to incorporate a little bit of veggies, a little bit of chicken. I've seen a few different ideas on here, and Stanley has been saying this is a good treat to give to his mommy, which is Chef Amy. Just want a quick shout out and say I'm really proud of Amy. She's got a new job starting really soon, and she's got the weekend off after almost an entire year. So we're not doing this all now, but this part of it we can get done and over with. We don't need to do too much with it. What we're going to do is we're going to take 2 chicken breasts, and we're just going to boil them. And that's it. We're going to let that sit here, and that's going to boil until it's cooked, and we're going to shred it. It's going to be a little while. Chicken takes some time to boil. I don't want to do anything special with it. I don't want to barbecue it. I don't really want to fry it or anything like that. We're just going to boil her until fully cooked, and we're going to shred it, and that will be somewhat of a part for this. We got 1 breast left. Amy will enjoy that. Maybe she'll make a burger out of it for herself. Who knows? Amy likes her chicken. We all do, I guess. So when we're done this, we're ready to shred. We'll come back, we'll show you that process, and we'll be back. Probably going to take about a half an hour, maybe 40 minutes. Want to make sure everything's cooked. When it's done, you have to cut it through, make sure there's nothing pink in there. There ain't nothing worse than having pink chicken, because that means it's not cooked. Get good salmonella, make sure you clean your hands, everything else like that. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to Poul's Kitchen. So chicken's all cooked. We've got pretty much everything all prepped. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to show you the ingredients. I was going to show you how I was going to rip the chicken apart with the forks, but unfortunately Chef Amy thought it would be a good idea to do it on her own. Thankfully, she didn't cut herself or do anything bad. She's worse than a 10-year-old, I swear. Before we begin, I'm going to let you know a few things. Number 1, in the summertime, watch your potatoes. They go bad really quick, and believe me, asking me about potato bombs sometime.
Oh, yuck.
So we got some butter. I've already pre-greased this here, and this isn't going to take very long, so we're going to put this to bake. We're going to set this to 350, so we're going to preheat this. I've got some Havarti, smoked Gouda, butter. This is a chicken. We don't need a whole lot of it. And rather than using milk, I'm going to use buttermilk. And then we've got flour and barbecue sauce. Amy wanted to put liver juice in, but I had to say no to that.
No!
Amy is Amy. She's Dutch, so she's a little weird sometimes. So we're going to put this on 5. Now, I want the butter to melt, but I don't want the butter to burn. So we're just going to put some oil in the bottom of the pan, extra virgin olive oil. Now, so at this point, you really want to decide if you want to spice anything or not. Some people like using a lot of salt. If you watch cooking shows enough, you'll see enough of it. Salt does give flavor, but it's not necessarily the healthiest for you. I mean, it's like using sugar. You don't need to. But we are going to use some black pepper. So we're going to let this heat up here. Turn the fan on. As Amy well knows, she's had an explosive week. Literally. Shout out to Kyle, Laura, and our buddy Lucas here. They were so kind to help us with a garbage run. We've been helping our good friend of ours, Lorraine, move from Halifax to Cape Breton, and we've been back and forth helping a lot. Really been really busy week. We got a lot of good stuff from them. So they agreed. So we had a bunch of boxes of stuff that we had to take out the garbage, and Amy figured out that, you know, maybe leaving a dozen bags of potatoes around and never put them in the garbage, and I never see them. I don't know why, but I didn't. And they all went really bad, and Amy took a big mouthful of one, and
No.
I tell you, I mean, there's no mouthwash available that's going to fix that.
It spilled on my shirt. It was disgusting.
So unfortunately, apparently Amy didn't drain anything or double bag it.
Didn't think to.
And guess who's car suffered? Yeah. It's going to be a while until Amy gets to live that one down. If she ever does. What do you think? Should I let her live it down? Here's an honest mistake.
Yes. I'll know for next time.
So we're just going to start putting the butter in as gentle as possible, or you're going to start splashing. We all know Amy likes splashing. And that's perfectly fine, but just don't splash oil because it's going to hurt. So we're just going to take the butter and we're going to let her start melting a little bit. And we're going to make a nice little roux. So we want to make sure the butter is getting down. And I'm going to turn the heat down quite a bit there too, because it just doesn't need to be that hot. And the more you break your butter down, the faster it's going to cook. I didn't put the whole block in, and I used 3/4 of a block. So I did still use quite a bit. But I want to make a lot of cheese. And by all means, if you want to make sure this is nice and thick, you can actually make your own cheese whiz. And if you notice on Cheese Whiz, it tells you it's a
Product of milk and cheese.
no, it's not a cheese product. It's something similar to it, but it's not. Cheese Whiz is apparently 1 grade away from paint. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised because corporations, a lot of corporations, if they can find a cheaper way to make it, they will. And if that means that it's not going to be legit, they have to use substitution. Like back in the 80s, Coke and Pepsi used to actually have cane sugar, and it tasted great. It really did. Nowadays, it doesn't. It has a alternative to it, and it's really not that great. So I mean, you can use this ingredient, and by all means, you can do what you want with it. So I got a cup of flour. If you look over here, this is where Amy has the chicken. I didn't spice it. I might have put a little pepper on it, but that's about it. Now, you can look online and you can find lots of different measurements and things that you want to do, but with this, you want to mix this so that the flour is nice and incorporated in. Because if you don't, it won't incorporate, and you're going to have a nice floury taste in your mouth somewhere in your meal, or your guest is going to be, oh, it tasted good, but there's little clumps of something I can't identify. Preferably, I'd rather have my guests not identify flour. I think it's alright to tell them it's in there, but I don't know.
Taste it?
But to taste it, it's just not a good thing. Okay, so this is probably one of the few things that you're going to do with this that's going to really take your time to really babysit. Because if you don't,
It'll burn.
it'll burn, and you don't want that. That's why we have the oil, and that helps. So I'm going to use buttermilk. A little bit more fat than regular milk, and you know what? I'm making a nice cheese sauce, so I do want that. And it'll taste better because there's no liver in it.
Ew.
She says do now, but trust me, Amy wanted the cheese, or wanted the liver.
No.
So you're just going to take your time, you're just going to stir that a little bit here. Now, when it comes to cheese, a lot of people are going to sit there and say that, well, you know, you should always grate it. No, you don't have to. But you should cut it up as small as you can. Because, I mean, you can dump the whole block in here. It will melt.
It'll take a while, though.
It'll take a while, and taking a while is going to take a risk of, you know what, of burning. So we're just going to drop about 2 handfuls at a time.
This is going to be cheesy.
And we're going to incorporate that in here. You might want to put it up to medium at this point. And like I said, don't just start dumping it in. You dump it in, you're going to start splashing, you lose stuff, and it's also not going to, it's going to make a mess. And there is oil in here, so I'm going to put that up to 6. The butter, the milk, it's going to give a nice little texture. Now, is this the healthiest thing in the world? Not really, but by far, it's not the worst.
It's not like we have it all the time.
But you can go to the store and you can buy crab dinner for like, what, $2.50 now? Please. I mean, seriously. If I'm going to eat a good crab dinner meal, I need at least 2 of them. You know, one for me, one for the wife, because they're not that going. Maybe for kids, but not for really adults. And if you're going to be feeding a few people, you might as well just spend $10. Then you have to buy milk. And, you know, the cheese, depending on who you're serving, you might want a little bit more cheese, so you're going to have to do this anyways. I paid $1 for the bag of noodles. Chicken we had on sale, you don't have to incorporate that. You really don't, but it's nice.
So it's under $10 for that.
But the cheese I got for $10. So that's $11. Having the chickens and add a little flavor. And you'll notice that there's no, I didn't season it. You don't need to. It's kind of a waste to do that. Buttermilk, I think that was $2.50, and you know, sadly enough, butter was probably like $3. And as you stir this, you're going to notice that it's starting to break down, it's starting to melt a little bit, and that's great. And it's thick. I mean, it's getting pretty thick here. You don't want to turn it too high, but you know what? 7 would be as far as I would go. I wouldn't go any more than that. So we're just going to keep on dumping little things 2 at a time. Notice how they're small blocks. They're not big. And this is going to be one heck of a cheesy mess. Amy's not going to complain.
No, it'll be so good.
Now while I'm doing this, I'm going to put a little bit of pepper in. There's a lot of other spices you can use. You can spice her up if you want to. If you want to go in and you want to put in salt, go ahead. I mean, be my guest. I'm not telling you can't do it. I'm just saying, for the sake of somebody who's diabetic with high blood pressure, it's not a great idea. Some people think you have to have it, and you know what? If you're in perfect health and you don't have any health issues, go ahead. But I'm going to tell you this straight up right now. The more salt you put on things, the more problems you're going to cause later. having a little bit of salt is not such a bad idea, but constantly eating it though is going to be problematic. Now while you're doing this and you're stirring this, you want to make sure you're feeling around so that you know that things are getting melted right. Because if you start noticing you still have a lot of cheese that's not melted, you want to be careful not to add any more until it is. So I can start reducing the heat now because it's starting to melt pretty darn good. And we're almost done. And maybe I put a little bit too much butter in, but I find that the people will decide not to put milk and butter. They put a little bit of butter and then they start dumping cheese. Yes, it's a pure cheese sauce. But are you really going to have enough for what you want? No, you're not. You're absolutely not. You want to make sure that when you're cooking this, that, you know what, I've got a big thing here, sitting here waiting. And you know what, I'd like to say that we're going to have more cheese sauce than we needed, and that's fine. You know what? It's not going to get wasted. We're making tacos later, so you know what? It's going to get used. So. So I'm just going to reduce this even more because things are all melted. Well, mostly all melted. You want to break up your chicken so it's not all chunked, and because you shouldn't have like just one huge chunk of chicken in one bite and then no chicken. I'm eating it, I get no chicken, then Amy gets all of it. And it's like, yeah, no. Okay, so everything's all melted down, so I'm just going to turn this off. We don't need this on anymore. Does this look nice and cheesy to you?
Yes, and really thick too.
So like I'm saying, like you can. Oh, I forgot one major ingredient.
What did you forget? Oh.
Now, this is optional. It's barbecue sauce. It is
Compliments.
chicken ribs. It's Sobeys. I'm not going to put a lot in. Just going to put a little bit. Amy and I like having ketchup or a little bit of barbecue sauce in our craft dinner. Now, some people will put some Frank's Red Hot sauce in here. That works. You know, you're the one that's got to eat it. So rather than us wasting our time, you know, dumping ketchup or something in it, we're just going to add a little bit there. And it's not to make it hot. If you're using a hot sauce, it's not to make it taste like barbecue, and it's not. What it's going to do is just going to give it a little bit of an extra texture and extra taste to it. So you give a good stir through. And then I'm going to grab a spoon and Chef Amy's going to take a little bite. Open up.
Mmm.
How's it taste?
Yum. Excellent. And that barbecue sauce does give it extra flavor.
So rather than put everything in there all at once, we're going to take some noodles. We're going to put it in here. I don't want to take everything and start mixing that because that's just going to make a huge mess. That's what Amy would do.
No.
This is what I would do. I'm going to take this. I'm going to take another one here. We're going to start putting some cheese and chicken. And we're just going to mix her up.
I made a mess.
That's alright, I'm not the one cleaning it. I don't mind. See guys, here's the thing. If you're going to cook, your wife cleans. That's all there is to it. Now, get a good look at that here. It's pretty, the cheese is all there, right?
Yeah.
So it's so much easier doing it in smaller portions and this is going to bake for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, it doesn't need long.
No, not at all. So again, we're going to come back and we're going to... Sometimes you have to re-rinse your noodles when they come out, when they're done in the pot, just because they're so starchy and sticky. He doesn't always do that. So when you're trying to take them out, they get very sticky, and especially if you don't eat them right away, and we didn't, obviously. I could start pouring sauce right here if I wanted to. And it's not, I don't know that would be the best thing to do. So again, we're just going to give her a good mixeroo. You know, me and a bunch of friends of ours were discussing April Fool's Day. And yeah, it's almost September, so still quite a ways until next April. But I don't know where everybody's at, but there's a store we have called Freak Lunchbox. And you can buy the little boxes of chocolate-covered Larvettes or stuff like that. It's got insects that are flavored. And Amy... I'll tell you a little funny story here.
No!
Amy, how do you feel about the cheddar-covered Larvette?
I don't like them.
I came home, she knew where I was, and... Would you stop moving?
I want to.
I came home, I told Amy to close her eyes and open her mouth. I had a nice surprise. I stuck them in her mouth, and what did Amy say?
Yuck.
Tell the truth. What did you say until you opened your eyes?
I said yum.
Amy really liked them. Until she opened her eyes and she threatened to kill me. So, my plan, and I know for a fact Amy's going to forget this.
No.
I guarantee you she'll forget it.
Nope.
I'm going to make her spaghetti and meatballs. But the meatballs are going to have some form of insects in them.
No, they're not.
They are.
No.
And I'll serve it to her and she'll be, yum, that was good. Until she wakes up and realizes, what's in this meatball, honey? We're discussing it this week. Somebody brought it up as an idea. It's actually, it's one of our subscribers. I thought it'd be funny to do. They didn't have the guts to do it themselves because their partner would either sit on them or beat them silly. And to be honest with you, I kind of feel that Amy would probably do it to me too. But what she doesn't know until then won't kill me.
Fun.
So we just keep on putting sauce in here, mixing her up. Yes, it takes a little longer this way, but it creates less mess. Now, you can add vegetables to this if you want. I was contemplating putting putting a little bit of onion in it, but then Amy threatened to kill me in my sleep, so I decided not to. And I'm joking, by the way. That might have went a little bit too far, and I do apologize. Amy and I will carry on with each other, but she's never actually physically hit me or done anything abusive to me that way, and neither have I ever done anything to her like that. We'll joke, but that's all it is. I love Amy, and I cherish her, and I would never ever hurt her, and you know what, guys, if you're really a man, then you wouldn't do it either. And that actually includes women, because you know what? Women are just as susceptible to it as men. No matter if you want to think that way or not, Most men would never ever consider or ever think about it. But you know what? Amy will agree with me on this. Women have been just as guilty of it. The problem is we kind of feel less of a man if we complain that a woman beat us up. So most of us don't ever really say anything if we did. But it's 2021, and we need to wake up and realize a few things. Number one, black people are black, but their insides have the same body parts and anatomy as the rest of us. They feel, they act, and they're the same. Racism needs to die. Abuse towards children needs to end. Racist cops need to be hung. You know, they do. Little unknown fact that most people don't really aren't aware of. In Canada, we actually do have the death penalty, by the way. We do. It's called, you get it for act of treason. When you put your hand on the Bible and you swear an oath to serve and protect people, that means something. It's not an empty little promise just to get a job and get a paycheck. And if you're somebody that feels that way, find another job that you're happy with. Because honestly, that's an act of treason in Canada and the United States, as far as I'm aware anyways. That's an act of treason which is punishable by death, by hanging. My point's not violence on anybody. My point is we need to end violence. It's 2021, guys. We need to curb this stuff. Black Lives Matter should never have to be a group because we should never, ever act in a way that they should have to do that. It's senseless. But anyways, enough of politics for now. This is something I've seen on the news recently. It's just really bugging me, and I don't understand why. So, Amy will notice that there's very little pasta left. And if you're somebody that really, really wants theirs really cheesy, then you know what? Add more cheese sauce. It's not going to kill you. Like, make this as cheesy as you want. Like, if you want this super, super cheesy, then hey, go for it. Make it super, super cheesy. I use 2 blocks of cheese. Use 4. Whatever you want. If you're somebody that doesn't really like it that cheesy, you can reduce it down to 1 block. It's yours. It's all up to you. There's 1,000,001 types of cheese. Amy likes her Gouda. I do too. Actually, I'm not going to complain. We also like her body. I'm not going to say Amy doesn't. She does. Her first preference is Gouda. But she likes her body. She likes cheddar. Amy is not a fussy person when it comes to certain things. She'll try almost anything once. And I'm sure there's a few things she wouldn't. Just like the rest of us, I'm sure there's stuff out there that I wouldn't touch. So I think we're done here. Now, what I'm going to do with the rest of this, I'm going to put the rest of this in here. And then I'm going to put some more cheese sauce on here. And until it's all done, that's what we're going to have for lunch. This we can do later. So what I'm going to do now is, and this is another important thing, and I would tell this to anybody, especially when you're dealing with cheese, you want to have something to put under your casserole dish. And here's the reason why. It's cheese. That's going to melt. And if this melts and go into that oven, guess what's going to happen?
Fire.
It could catch fire, or even worse, when he goes to clean it, it ain't going to be fun. I promise you. It's easier to clean this than it is the bottom of that oven. So take a moment. It's already preheated. And we're going to put this in here on 350 degrees for 15 minutes. We've already had it preheated. So now we're just going to stick this in here. Now I'm putting this in, but when this comes out, oven gloves. Straight up, oven gloves. Don't forget that because you'll hurt yourself. So we'll be back in 15 minutes when this is done. Take this out. We'll show you what it looks like. You can use breadcrumbs on that if you want to. Not a big deal. We just don't like them. But anyways, we'll be back out. Amy will have a little bit of a taste test, and we'll be back in about 15 minutes. Welcome back to Poul's Kitchen. We're pretty much done. So before I forget, hit the like, share, subscribe button, and here we go. Take a look at this, our homemade mac and cheese with chicken. So we're not actually going to eat any of this. Amy said she's not hungry at all. I'm not really that hungry either. But Amy is going to have to get up and start putting this in Tupperware so we can fridge it. So I'm going to take the first little bit here and I'm going to show you what it is. And Amy's already mouth salivating really hardcore. She's like, is it done yet? Ouch.
What happened? Oh, you touched the pan.
Yeah, with my stomach.
Be careful.
Yes, Mommy. Alright, so. We'll do this a little bit later when it cools off, but just for the sake of it.
You want me to try it?
I just want you to try it, Light.
I just want one little bite. Mmm. That is so much better than KD.
Yeah, it is. So hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Until next time, stay cool, have a nice day, and thanks for joining.
Enjoy.